All right, my name is Kat. In a quick nutshell, I run the innovation and tech arm at the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. We support the next generation of Angelinos going into tech for underrepresented, underserved communities, and also run an impact-driven tech incubator. But we're here today for these kick-ass female founders who are gonna share their stories, their advice, what not to do. But I wanted to start off with who in the room here is raising their first round for the first time ever? Raise your hand. Okay, about 5. Who here has already been rejected by an investor in this room? Raise your hand. Perfect. Alrighty. So ladies, quick lightning round because we only have 25 minutes. So what do you or your company do in a tweet length? We're gonna start with that. And then what's the male to female ratio in your company? And then the third question is, if you had a superpower, what would that superpower be? So Katie, we're gonna start with you.
My name is Katie Warner-Johnson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Carbon 38, which is a multi-brand activewear retailer that's creating a new category of ready-to-wear. We just crossed our 25 million mark in revenue.
Congrats.
Pretty proud of. And oh God, now I remember the superpower, but what's next? Oh, ratio of men. Oh, we're about 30% male, 70% female employees. I think so. And my superpower would be I could eat all the burgers in the world and not gain a pound.
Yeah. Thanks, Katie. Thuy?
Hi everyone, my name is Thuy. I'm actually an alum from 500 Sub Accelerator Program in Mountain View. I graduated from Basic in 2003. So if you saw the trailer of C started it earlier, there's a crazy girl in that trailer and that person is me. So we're actually gonna have an official screening for the first time in Los Angeles in USC in upcoming March. So if you're interested in seeing that movie, 500 staff gonna send out all of the email regarding to that screening. So my company, Soul Cancer Initiative, so you've seen in the movie that Nora had been follow my journey for 3 years total. I built the first company with 500 startup, that company failed. The second company with 500 startup, and that company got acquired after 10 months. And after I exit that company, I decided I want to travel around the world. So I took a car and drove a road trip around America all by myself. And right after that, I get diagnosed with cancer. So therefore, so after I get diagnosed with cancer, it was like the world kept collapsed in front of my eye. So I decided to stand back up and I started the Soul Cancer Initiative to empower all of the cancer patients in Vietnam and in US to give them hope that cancer is not the end of the world. As long as you stand back up, you are stronger than cancer.
Thanks, Thuy. Woo!
I actually don't know what my superpower is.
What would you want it to be, Thuy?
I'm sorry?
What would you want your superpower to be?
I want my superpower to be the family member, my loved one, the person who, I can spend the rest of my time with the people who I love and care about. So I think that is the superpower that I have.
Awesome. Thank you. Melissa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Hanna. I'm co-founder and CEO of a company called Mahmee, and we create software for the maternal health care industry. Our mission is to increase the quality of and access to women's health care, specifically for new families through pregnancy and into postpartumhood and early childhood. So that's what we do. And let's see, my superpower is probably retaining a lot of information. My team teases me about this a lot. Like, how do you remember that random thing? So that comes in handy pretty often.
What's the ratio of male to females in your team?
Well, we actually just have some new team members, so it's about 60-40 now, female to male.
Great. Alrighty, so we're gonna start off with what we love the most about being a woman in tech and being a woman founder? What's the advantage? Who wants to start?
I'll start. So I think that, look, even though we represent 51% of the population, we're still considered as a whole a disadvantaged group. So there's a lot of resources out there to kind of help give us a leg up. And I do think that there are amazing organizations like Ernst & Young has a Winning Women program that I've been a part of that's unbelievable. I think you can get grants from the government. I just think that there's a certain amount of momentum that you can pick up. We certainly face a lot of headwinds as women, but I do think that there's a lot more help out there than I think any of us acknowledge, and I think that's kind of cool.
You're right, endless abundance of resources, which we will dive into. What are your favorite resources shortly? Thuy?
I think for my entire career, I love being a female entrepreneur. The fact that there's so much support out there, there are only things that one woman can understand for another, and there are obviously a lot of female entrepreneurs and female investors out there willing to reach the hand out to help out each other.
I think that women bring a really different, unique perspective to tech and to technical solutions to problems. And so I think what's exciting right now is that you're seeing companies solving more traditional market problems and some things that haven't been addressed yet. And when you've got not necessarily female CEO, but just women on a co-founding team, there's like a different angle to the solution that might not have been in the market otherwise.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I don't know if the audience knows, but women on a national rate start businesses 1.5 times more than the national average, which is incredible. That means we're hustling. That's what that means. But what's the worst piece of entrepreneurial advice you have received so that we can hopefully prevent some of the audience out here to make those?
Very simple. Don't incorporate too early. The advice I got was incorporate now. You've got an idea, go get a Delaware C Corp. Don't do it until you really are prepared to, build out that company and take on funding. Preferably when someone's got a check in their hand that they're about to hand you, be like, hang on, let me go make a Delaware C Corp and I'll be right back. Yeah.
So wait to incorporate until an investor?
It's costs that you don't need early on as an early stage founder. There's so many things that you might still end up doing kind of along the way before you get to the company you're going to actually set out to build. So, yeah. Be as lean and as sort of nimble as you can for as long as you can.
So since we had 500 subs, I'm going to share a story of my very last day at 500 subs Accelerator Program Batch 6. I sit down with one of my batchmates, and he told me, Thuy, your company had amazing traction before you even joined the Accelerator Program. Why do you think you're not getting any funding at all? And I was like, well, the company is we started a company 4 years before we joined 500 Startup. So when we joined 500 Startup, the only investor that we raised was actually Dave McClure and one other angel investor. So I talked to actually hundreds of investors in Silicon Valley. That is my first time fundraising, and all of them turned me down. And my batchmate sit down and look straight into my eyes. I think you're very ignorant. You're an Asian woman, broken English, come to America, did not know anyone, and you come up too strong for any other man who come across you, and that's why they're scared of you. You're supposed to, as a woman, you're supposed to be more humble. You're supposed to be easy to work with. You're supposed to be a little bit, stay back so that, people, they feel that it's easy to work with you because you're too difficult to work with. And then I went back to my apartment and I cried. I'm like, oh my God, it's too difficult to be in Silicon Valley. And then the next day I was like, well, you know what? Should I change to become successful, or success gonna come, in the way that, it's suitable for me the most? So I think that is the worst advice that I ever heard.
I would agree with that, Thuy. Absolutely.
Yes, we're supposed to be humble, but we're not. I think the reason why I think it's a bad advice where he say, as a woman, you're supposed to be humble. No, I think you're supposed to be humble regardless. But as a woman, you're supposed to be humble. I think that's a wrong advice.
Katie?
Well, my piece of worst advice is to wear a suit. My first investor pitch, I was told I needed to look professional, and so I put on a stuffy old suit. And I did that for my next 5 pitch meetings, and I was turned down at all 5. And so the 6th one, when I throw on a pair of leggings and a sports bra, I actually raised $100,000. So.
Booyah. Yeah. Switch that up. Okay, speaking of pitching, so we all remember our first pitches for those entrepreneurs out there, right? Talk to me about, if you had a piece of advice for those that are going out there and pitching to investors right now, who you remember your first pitch, you remember your lead investor. What are some of those most memorable moments that you would share from an advice perspective?
I'll go first. So I actually just closed on our first priced round of 11 million, and we had 2 notes that converted into that, 2 convertible notes, and I think that maybe this is my worst advice. So when we were raising our first note, this was in 2013, convertible notes were all the rage, and I think that's bad. I think that's actually pretty bad advice, because what happened in our price round is we actually had to raise it at less than 1 times run rate, because the cap on the note had such a dilutive effect on our cap table and was really pushing our price up so high. And so I think that, as you're prepping or you're in the middle of your first round, I think to be super cognizant of what all the different paths can be. I mean, in the end, I'm very proud of what we just raised, and I think that it all works out, and we're where we are today because of that, and I wouldn't change that for the world. But I think if I had known a little bit more about what that would actually look like, when you're raising with a note capped at 3 million, and then the next round you're going out at a 15 million pre, it really has a significant effect on that first million coming in, and it can really screw some things up.
No, that's a great.
We're still around, so I mean, isn't that what all that matters?
And still raising.
You already saw my first pitch on the trailer already, so I look like a crazy person on that pitch. I mean, on that video. So it's definitely something I don't want to look back. But if you're not embarrassed about your first pitch, you're not doing it right. If you ask any entrepreneur, if they're not embarrassed about their first pitch, they're not doing it right. So go out there and share with people about your company, and just pour your heart out and build build amazing stuff, and don't really care about how embarrassing it is, because for sure you're gonna be embarrassed regardless.
Amen to that. Yes. I was thinking about my first pitch before this, and it's cringeworthy. Like, when I think about it as a memory, I'm like, oh my God. But recording your pitches and looking back at them it's if you're an athlete, or if you know any athletes who record plays and games and look back. I was a competitive gymnast my whole childhood, until I had back surgery and I couldn't compete anymore. You need to review your performance, to see what you can improve upon, what didn't work, what worked, how the crowd responded to your pitching of a vision for a new company. And actually, some of the most, I've referred back to those earliest pitches in the darkest times of our company, when things are just really tough and things are breaking down for one reason or another, whether it's literally the app, or it is a dynamic on the team, or it's money, whatever it is, when you're just oh my God, how are we going to make it through the rest of the week? Looking back and being we're still building that company that I pitched, the first pitch that I ever did. We're still doing it, and we've taken some turns along the way, and the product is maybe not the same product I said we were going to pitch, but the vision and the mission and the philosophy is all the same.
I love that reminder to yourself that this is where we started and why are we here. So how many of you guys have recorded yourselves pitching? Because that's pretty terrifying as well.
Do it.
Right? And then rewatching it and be like, oh. So you touched upon something that, those moments as an entrepreneur, anyone, male, female, why am I doing this? Are we going to get through this week? Am I going to be able to pay anyone? So what were your biggest challenges? Like that moment when you thought everything was crumbling down and it's literally a panic attack almost. What did you do?
I mean, mine is, okay, well,
Outside of watch your awesome pitching.
outside, yeah. The hardest thing that happened to my company and to me as founder and CEO is that I lost my parent in the middle of building the company. We're a 500 startup company as well. We're in batch 15, and 2 weeks into the program, my stepdad, but surrogate father, raised me for 20 years of my life, passed away suddenly, and he had been my biggest professional mentor and advocate and champion, and meant a lot to the team too. And it was a big challenge of whether or not we were going to be able to go on, losing the person who had originally sort of formed the idea with me and had built up a lot of those earliest visions and ideas for the company. And I just was going through a lot of grief too. And we went through the program. I pitched about 100 investors. I didn't raise any money. And I couldn't figure out why, because we got so much attention for it, and we got on all the top 10 lists at demo day, company to watch for, hottest company coming out of 500 this batch. And the investors could see that there was something that was not right, but like no one was addressing it with me. People were just like, you're a little too early, come back later. But it was this very subtle undercurrent of like, you're not mentally ready to build the company that you say you want to build. And you need to get right, you need to get your head right, you need to grieve before you're ready to do this, because this is a big job ahead of you. So yeah, that was the hardest thing that happened in 2016 and was a crucial moment for the company. We did raise funding later in 2016 after a lot of therapy for the whole team. Yeah, and like we're still at it. And we had a great year, and yeah, we're gonna be, yeah.
2017 to infinity and beyond. That's
2017
awesome,
is our year.
Yeah, that's great. Katie, do you want to?
Yeah, biggest challenges? Look, when I first moved to LA, I went with a friend of mine who was an actor to a workshop with a casting director just to kind of see what the entertainment industry was all about, because that's really the economy that's driving, the industry that's driving the economy in LA. And the casting director said, raise your hand if you can think of anything else you'd rather do than act. And I was the only one in the room with her hand up. And I realized that that's pretty cool. I'm in a room full of people that are so committed to something that they will humiliate themselves and be very poor. And I consider actors magicians of a sort. They're shapeshifters. There's something very special about who they are and what drives them. And I realized that I think entrepreneurs have a similar gene. Because if someone were to ask me today, raise your hand if you think you could do anything, you'd rather do something else than starting a business, I wouldn't be the one raising my hand, because there's nothing else I could do in this world than do what I'm doing now. And I think we all as entrepreneurs are going to face waves, and the waves get bigger as you get bigger, and so your boat's always in threat of capsizing, and the pain can be unbearable. Just a couple days ago, I was crying sitting in my shower. It can be pretty rough some days. Or I spent last night eating a tub of ice cream alone, and it was, it's worth it though, because of what I'm building and the 40 people that I employ and the factory of 160 that we work out of and the fulfillment center of 270. Think of all of those lives and livelihoods that you're responsible for, and it's such an honor and a privilege and a responsibility. So there are certainly challenges every day, huge ones, small ones, but it's so worth it. I don't know, it's so worth it.
And that's why I love working with entrepreneurs in general, because relentlessly pursuing their passions and just die hard. So kudos to that as well. Thuy?
I think the biggest challenge that I face, and I'm pretty sure everyone here already faces, if you are an entrepreneur, that is leaving your co-founder. So I built, at this time, I built total 4 company. And every single time, the moment when, you make that decision, you wake up and you're like, okay, that's it. This is the end of the road. Today, I'm going to announce to the team, announce to my co-founder that we're shutting down the company. Or when your co-founder walk to your office and say, you know what, I'm choosing different path. And that moment is very emotional. Believe it or not, like the other day when I told my mom that, hey mom, I was thinking I'm gonna build another app, to help cancer patients. And my mom like, are you gonna create our company? And I was like, maybe, I don't know. It's just an idea for now. And then she looked at me and she was like, you realize that you have more co-founder than boyfriend, right? So I was like, what's wrong with that? So living a co-founder is always hard. It's the hardest thing, the biggest challenge, and even now, it's still heartbreaking. It's still, very heartbreaking every time I think about that.
So thank you for your attention, for power posing with us in the beginning. Appreciate it.